The first time in my life that I voted for COPE. More than a decade later, I put the leader of COPE in the city of Tshwane in jail.
How important is it for you, and is it even important to be seen as a woman in politics, or is it primarily you're a politician that happens to be a woman?
My daughter was born during an election campaign, fell pregnant, injecting myself with hormones on street corners. I think people thought I was the biggest druggie in the world.
You're essentially supposed to just do admin if you're a politician. You're not supposed to tell me how to think, drink, or do.
Geez, I'm sharing a lot here. In any case, I was...
It's therapy.
You're listening to the Baascast. Yeah, it is better than it sounds.
How's it? Welcome back to the Baascast. My name is Baas de Beer, and this is my cast. Today on the couch with me, I have got Jacqui Uys. Now, I've known her for quite a few years in different capacities, and I must say she's impressive. So if you want to see a bit of impressiveness in a pink suit, please welcome next to me, Jacqui Uys. Why do I feel like there should be an applause every time that I do that?
Well, you'll grow into having an audience one day and then there'll be an applause.
I mean, I would have loved to do this live, but for now the podcast will have to suffice. So, Jacqui, you're on my couch. Thank you so much for coming out. We are here at Apeiron Art Studios, and I think it's possibly a slightly weird setting for you because you know, you're used to boardrooms and things, I assume, and now you're sitting in an amazing tattoo parlor in Pretoria East.
Look, some places you're more at home than in others. I might be more at home in a tattoo parlor than what I am in a boardroom. Yes, I'm a politician for all my great sins in life, but I'm also a person. I like alternative rock music. This might appeal to your audience and not my traditional audience that I speak to, but my favorite band is Korn, and my favorite song of all times is Twisted Transistor. So, yes, I'm not so uncomfortable in a tattoo shop.
Well, I mean, look, I was looking forward to hopefully asking one or two questions during our chat that might, throw a curveball in the image of what a politician is. And I didn't even need to build up towards that.
No,
because
it's
you was
right
like,
there.
out of the gate, I'm here, I'm pink, and I'm going to tell you things that shock you.
Something like that, yes.
So you mentioned you're a politician. Now, just for those not in the know, who are you and kind of like what do you do?
So I'm from the DA, of course, a Liberal Party, a party that believes that we all have the rights that we have to want to be who we are. And hence we do have quite a bunch of people in the DA that is less conservative than what you would expect from politicians. But I started about 15 years ago as a small activist running around, doing calls, making coffee, grew into later on being a ward councillor, which is probably still the hardest job that I have ever had in my life. Service delivery is something that is very difficult because it's the cold face of people's lives. You know, it's water, electricity, roads. It's everything that we all expect, and nothing glamorous, nothing fancy, but that of which we can't live without. And grew then from there into becoming the chairperson of the DA caucus in the city of Tshwane, ultimately the chairperson of the coalition. So it is my job to keep it all together. And some days I fare better than other days. And then at the beginning of this year, I was appointed as the mayoral committee member for finance in the city.
That is such a journey. I mean, literally, from where I met you was basically through a Mensa group thing where we were trying to prove that we were intelligent enough to do stupid things.
Yes.
And if you don't know what Mensa is, don't worry, you won't get in. But I mean, if you know, and you will be able to get in. Point is, to grow from there into essentially being a very integral cog in the running of the capital city of South Africa, and the country, and, you know, how did that journey, you know, could you have envisioned where you would be now if I had told you that 15 years ago?
No, not at all. 15 years ago, I was in advertising. I specialized specifically in content creation before content creation was a thing. Content strategy was where I focused on, and that was 15, 16 years ago, long before it was an actual thing. And no, I had no idea that this would be my role. I mean, for crying in a bucket. The first time in my life that I voted, I was almost 27 years old. And I voted for COPE. Subsequently, more than a decade later, I put the leader of COPE in the city of Tshwane in jail. So that came full circle.
I take it you're not going to vote COPE anymore?
No.
For various reasons.
I don't think COPE wants my vote anymore.
Interesting. No, listen, I need to ask you, like, there's a lot of things happening currently. I mean, in Pretoria, we are just sort of coming out of a drought, essentially, with, the Rand water that switched off water. And firstly, just want to say...
That's why I've got dirty hair.
Yeah,
I don't have water. I couldn't shower.
You couldn't shower, but this morning when I finally sort of took a shower, I'm like 4 days without showering. I went to Opikopi. These are rookie numbers.
I've never gone to Opikopi because I am prone to accidents, and everybody always says that I'll spoil their event because I'll land up in the hospital, and nobody has ever wanted to go with me. So if you're willing, I would like to go.
It doesn't exist anymore, but
I
there are
know, but we
various
can go
other
to
good
Strabfest.
festivals. You're going to Strab with
I
us
want
next
to go
year?
to Strabfest, yes.
I book you for Strab next
Cool.
year. Listen, I go back to the time when you were actually my ward councillor, and because I was living in Equestria, and speaking about all the things that you've done made me realize I have no idea what a ward councillor actually does other than run WhatsApp groups. And apparently, to quote people, fix electrical faults, do plumbing, and do their personal admin for them, it seems. So what does a ward councillor actually do?
So a ward councillor's responsibility is to represent your needs in the municipal council, i.e. when there is policy and decisions that need to be made in the municipal council, the ward councillor carries your vote. So you basically mandate them to carry your vote when the hand needs to be put in the air. However, throughout years, there has been a breakdown in service delivery up until very recently, when we were able to start fixing it. And hopefully we won't speak too much about that, but we are on a trend to start fixing it. But up until very recently, the ward councillor's job has almost started to be the one who screams and shouts on behalf of residents. The one that stands up and be like, but my community is without power, and I need to fight for my community. So ward councillors have become little warriors that run and fight for things to happen for their people on a day-to-day basis. No, I unfortunately do not have a cherry picker. It would have been fun if I had, because then I could have fixed things myself. I do not. What I do have is a whip that I can stand behind people over who I have no authority, because I have no authority over municipal officials outside of a council meeting. But I can stand behind them and use influence to make things happen. And we've got quite a number of very good ward councillors, specifically in Pretoria East. People who understands more of electricity than what they should understand.
Yeah, by now every ward councillor is an expert.
I mean, that's necessitated. When Motherhood burned down the second time in 2021, I actually sat at 2:00 in the morning next to the electricians and drew the blue blueprints. Now, this is where this cable goes. And then they said, no, it isn't. It can't. I'm like, people are telling me their power is off, so this cable is off and it goes there. So, yeah, but it's an interesting job. That is, like I said, probably the most difficult thing that I have ever done, and it's because we do get people that care into those positions, so they take the stress and the emotions of people onto themselves as well. I mean, you spoke about the water outage. There was some electricity vandalism that we've seen in the last week in the east that has been very bad. And this morning I drove into Tshwane House, and a full-grown male councillor just walked up to me and packed out crying. No, because of the passion that is there, and the fact that you do not have a want to make it right, even how much you want to.
Is there anything that people can do to make the life of a councillor at least a little bit easier? I know a lot of them don't want to do it because there are a lot of assholes out there.
Just understand that we do care. just understand that the person on the other side of the screen is somebody that really do care, somebody that really do their best. I mean, this very same counsellor this morning apologized to me for not sleeping or for sleeping last night. It was, Jacqui, I went to bed at 9 because I was tired, and then when I woke up this morning, there was 500 people screaming at me and saying, you know, why am I not answering your WhatsApp? So just understand, it's a person, it's somebody that has got a family, somebody that is 100% committed, but also ultimately is a human.
That is actually such a good segue for what I really want to be talking about today. All the politics set aside, I can never really mean it when I say it to anyone in the chat, but now for you, I can say, hey, all the politics set aside, let's talk other things. I took a look at your social media, and I mean, what did strike me a lot was when you go onto Instagram, you've got an Instagram and it shouts Pretoria Oos Mama. You know, it is family, it is the fun things you do with your kids, it is a normal, there's not a single agenda on your Instagram, right? I don't know if I might have missed a political one that you run, but I mean, under your name, it's generally speaking you. Your Facebook, you know, you share things that you care about, and I think Facebook community is a different thing, but just standing still on your Instagram presence, it's clear to see that you are mum first.
Yeah.
Care to elaborate a little bit? Challenges faced there with that?
So I grew up in a family with four brothers. At one point, it was me, my father, my brother, and a male cousin living in the house. So I grew up in quite a male-dominated environment. I have always felt that there's nothing that can keep a woman from doing what you want to do until I became a mother. I did struggle for 5 years with infertility. My daughter is born on IVF round 11. My daughter was born during an election campaign, fell pregnant, injecting myself with hormones on street corners. I think people thought I was the biggest druggie in the world, but it happened, and luckily my colleagues knew what it was about, so nobody arrested me. But yes, then I became a counsellor while being pregnant. And that is when I did start experiencing as a mother some opdranden, like
some resistance,
challenges. Let's call them that.
Challenge 1 and 2.
Challenge 1 and 2. So yeah, I was, and then I had this conversation with a friend of mine because I said to him, you know, now I'm pregnant and they want to push me off committees onto what they deem to be less important committees, because you know how young mothers are. And a colleague of mine said, Jacqui, you know, at one point, you're going to have to integrate the kids into your lives. So just do it now. So I never took maternity leave. My daughter was 12 days old when she sat through her first 12-hour council meeting. Her and I were thrown out of council, so we had to sit outside on a broken chair. And every time I had to just go in, raise my hand, vote, go out again. She was 8 days old when we went to our first public meeting. My kids grew up in politics. I mean, they have been to corners of the city that very few people have gone to. I breastfed both of my kids up until the age of 2. Both of them were on my side up until the age of 3. So for my first 6 years of a counsellor, I had a child with me at literally all times. And it was very interesting where it came from being thrown out of meetings, being stared at because you've got a child on your hip, to ultimately the last time I breastfed my son in a caucus meeting. I was busy giving a speech in caucus and he started crying around my legs, and I picked him up. And one of my colleagues saw, you know, that this child might be hungry, and he was wanting to hand me a cover-up, couldn't find a cover-up, so he handed me a pride flag. So the last time I breastfed my son was in a caucus meeting under a pride flag while I was giving a speech. So yeah, it was quite a journey, but I mean, ultimately, that is it's now part of me. If I'm not in places, John Steenhuisen always asks me if he sees me like, "Where's your son?" And I joke that you can't be a leader in the DA if you have not gone on a school run with me. Helen Ziller has, John Steenhuisen has, Sonny Bisimanga has. Every person who is who's a leader in the DA has gone on a school run with me. So my kids are very often around. We have got caucus meetings, coalition meetings, where I often have kids on my lap. We recently had a Mako meeting. My daughter was sick in the morning, so she came with me to to the office and not to school. And how it goes with kids is they're sick for the first hour of the day, and then they're no longer sick. So I was sitting in Mako, and I could just see this little scooter going up and down past the boardroom for the entire day. So yeah, I do believe ultimately people realize that I'm a mother, have kids, they're with me all the time, but
you still do your job and you do it well.
I can still manage to do my job. I can still manage to carry authority, and I can still do what I need to do.
Well, firstly, I must say, well done. That seems more daunting than I believe most
Well, look, they
people.
also do come with a village. I mean, you don't do these type of things without having people around you that raise your kids, and it is a village, and I do have a lot of people that help me with raising them.
I must just say, I had no idea the B in LGBTQ, the alphabet bender. I had no idea the B stood for breastfeeding. But apparently it's not.
It does.
Oh, man. Listen, on the topic of these challenges, I mean, it's all good and well that you mention it's difficult, but I mean, how do you cope with it? Because let's be honest, I don't think it sits in everyone's bones just naturally to juggle so many things, such an intense career, a full family life, a personal life, I assume, because you need to look after yourself and get there. But how do you do it?
Well, number one, a thick skin. That's the first thing. My children is going to be with me, and you don't like it, that's your problem. And they're going to be children. The one is 4, the other one is 7, and my son, yeah, I think he's going to be leader of the world one day, and my daughter will be the chief of staff, whipping everybody into shape. So, or they might not like politics at all and end up in therapy. I'm joking about it, but it can go absolutely either way. But the first one is to have a thick skin. Now you are running a meeting, you've got a crowd in front of you, and you've got a 3-year-old suddenly throwing a tantrum. No, that is...
It's bad enough if it happens in private.
Yeah, exactly. So number one is a thick skin. Number 2 is prioritizing my kids, which I do. I do not care whose company I am in. I do expect of my kids to be respectful. But I do still prioritize them. I always say to them, mooi hartjie. They have to have a mooi hartjie, and that includes manners and being respectful. But then also I have a husband who really is an amazing hands-on dad. I clean, he cooks. No, we have 100% of shared responsibilities. He's just as involved in the kids' lives as what I am. And I have colleagues who are absolutely amazing. I can, at any point of the day, if I'm not able to fetch my children or attend to my children, I have got at least 10 colleagues who my kids love, who they know, and who can be a backup to take care of them. So for me, it is really about the village. I did have a bit of a giggle on Sunday. We were walking the 702 Walk the Talk. And I was saying, you know what, I actually really do not have anything clean to wear because I haven't done washing. And one of my colleagues who helped potty train my kids, he was like, Jacqui, how can you not have washing? Why don't you do your washing? And the mayor looked at him. He said, you never ask a career woman why she has not done the washing.
Especially when there's no water.
Especially when there's no water. So, I mean, my house is very often chaos. My washing is very often not done. But prioritize family, prioritize people, and not things. That's my motto.
Prioritize people and not things. I like that. But I mean, in the end, you do have a knack for people. Like one thing that really did impress me about you so far has been to see how you have that deeper sense of community. And I mean, just seeing how you talk about your kids, it's the village, it's the community surrounding that. Back, just to mention again, when we were in your ward, I mean, you know what got me to vote DA back then? You helped us look for our dog.
I remember that.
It was myself and my friend Nanique, and her dog got out, got lost, not once, not twice, probably 3 times. And you were on the WhatsApp groups. You physically went out to help us look, and that was so involved in community. And I think that involvement is probably paying itself back to you now to have the caring community around you while you're excelling in your career.
So very, very many years ago, I was in a very difficult situation. I was divorced when I was very young, and geez, I'm sharing a lot here. In any case,
It's therapy.
I was divorced when I was very young. I had quite a lot of debt that I had to repay, and somebody who I looked up to said to me, "You know what, Jacqui? People respect you if you ask for help." And then she also afterwards said that once you have then asked for help, then you repay it. So, and that is something that I believe South Africans are also good at. South Africans are good at pulling together and at helping each other. It's like part of who we are. Now, I'm Afrikaans girl. So ek glo die voorvroue van, of the boeretydperk, they've already done this, understanding of how important it is to help each other out, but to also understand that once you have got I almost want to say the balls to ask somebody and say, you know what, I need your help, and I'll be here for you when you need my help. That builds respect, and it builds mutual trust. So it is something that I do aspire to do, yes. And I do believe we can't live for ourselves. I ultimately believe that people often ask, what is this big purpose of life? Well, the purpose of life here is to help each other. I mean, we could probably go into much deeper things, but ultimately we're here to help each other. So, yeah.
I always find it interesting, sure, you do get your introverted people and people that are a little bit more solitudinal by nature. But in the end, we are an integrated society. And unless you're willing to say, look, I'm going off grid as a hermit on the tippy tip of a mountain somewhere, you are going to have to, in some way or other, rely on, even if it is a forced societal community, but it's there. I've got a very firm belief that the key to living a good life is just to do your best to not be a dick. Do you have any mom-like advice on raising kids to not be dicks?
Well, so I often say that the only thing that I want for my kids when they are big is to be contributing members to society with good hearts. And then people look at me and they're, oh, don't you care if your kid is a drug addict? I'm like, dude, if you can be a contributing member of society with a good heart and a drug addict, then you're a savant, So that sort of excludes, bad habits. So I don't have, I've got very strict requirements of my kids, but when it comes down to rules of parenting, it all boils down to having a good heart. Having a good heart, and that includes, as I said earlier, it includes manners, it includes respect, it includes empathy, and it includes understanding that you have a role to play in the greater life. So every rule that is in my house is about, does it boil down to having a good heart? So yeah, my kids often go out of the house and they dress themselves in the morning since they have been very, very small. And my daughter has got this eccentric way of dressing herself. At some point, she layered 4 dresses every day. She would have like one dress up to her knees and then fasten it with a belt, and then another dress up to here. And I would walk the street and people would literally stare at this child. But those type of things doesn't matter, What ultimately matters is if somebody speaks to her, is she going to treat them respectful? If I can't care if my child throws a curse word out, of course I'll help them write because it's not appropriate to do. But that's not going to make me severely upset and punish them. What is going to make me severely upset and punish them is if they call somebody stupid. Now, that will make me severely upset. So for me, it all boils down to having a good heart and being a contributing member to society, which you can do when you're 4 as well.
That is interesting. When you're 4, I think the best thing that you can do is to not be too annoying. But then again, I don't have a 4-year-old, so I don't know the parameters.
They've got very sweet souls, very, very sweet souls, and it is interesting to see how they also do contribute and how they value out of being contribute. So the best way to, in my opinion, for me to get my kids to calm down and be relaxed is to ask them to help me. Come help me, quickly do this, quickly do that. Of course, in their parameters. And then after that, go sit down with them and spend some time with them.
Well, I mean,
I do have dates with my kids once a week.
Oh.
I go on dates with my kids once a week, half an hour, because they're small, so they don't have massive attention spans. But for a half an hour, we go sit somewhere, drink a cup of coffee, play a game, and just have fat chats between us.
that is awesome. Now, I want to ask you something, right? Kind of based on a question that I recently asked the Russian Dolls, a band that I interviewed. If you want to check it out, there's
For
a
a
link here
moment,
somewhere. No, I didn't really interview Dolls.
Okay, no, I was just for a moment wondering, like Russian Dolls. In any case,
No, they're a pretty cool band. 2 chicks in a
go
band,
ahead.
love them. And I asked them a question. I'm going to kind of paraphrase the same question to you, right? You mentioned earlier that you are obviously mom first, it's family first, and so. But how important is it for you, and is it even important to be seen as a woman in politics, or is it primarily you're a politician that happens to be a woman?
So my view on that is probably the point where all feminists will pretty much kill me. Is I do not see myself as a big champion of women in politics. I recently also visited a girls only school, and I said to them, that it is about you as a person, what you do, how you do it, but I do believe that you should never lose your femininity in it. But I don't see myself as some warrior for women in politics. Or some warrior for equality in politics. I possibly see myself as somebody who believes in individuality in politics, because that's something that is important. It is important that specifically in politics, that we have various different groups that are represented and people that are represented. But ultimately, when you are in a position of lawmaking, which politicians are, you need to be a warrior for what is fair and what is right. And so I personally do not see myself as a baanvechter vir vroue. No.
It's
A baanvechter vir almal. It's also, the same as I don't teach my child do not hit girls. I teach my child do not hit. So
why do you think people need to? It's like they want to find their purpose in a cause by having to associate it to something niche instead of, let's just say, be a nice person, don't hit people.
I think it possibly boils down to everybody's personality, and it boils down to where you come from. And it is also important that we do have people that are fighting for specific individual needs, because you see things that other people don't see. For me, I focus on being a champion for what is fair, what is right, what is it that I always say that I'm the most loyal person you'll find, but I will never put person above policy and person above principle. And for me, principle always comes first. And I'm not only saying this because I'm in the DA, but I do very firmly believe in fairness and equality.
Okay. Well, obviously you must be able to tell me some real life anecdotes about when you had to make shall we say, a calculated decision based on what your principles are. Has there ever been any examples that you can mention that might have been a difficult choice for you to make, but you had to put principle first?
There's examples. There's not necessarily examples. You have to understand out of the nature of politics, a lot of what we do is confidential. But there has been situations where there was people that I cared of, people that I cared for, and they did not act in the best interest. I'm not saying they made bad decisions. I'm just saying the decision that was made was not necessarily in the best interest of the cause. And then you have to stand up and say it.
Do you get flack if you do?
I believe in general, people respect that if you make fair decisions and, fair judgments. I do believe that people respect that. I also believe that if you have built up a good enough track record for people to understand your heart, then they might be upset, but they will ultimately understand where you come from, and they will understand that later on, when it's them sitting on the other side, you will make exactly the same decision to protect them, because it is about principle and not person. That's also something that is very important when you have to build relationships across different lines and with different people. It's not about taking sides. It's not about trek laar om iemand. It is about doing what is right, and I think there's a level of safety in that for people as well, to know that you will ultimately always look at not the individual but what is right.
This segment of the Baascast was sponsored by, well, myself, because I really want to invest in this channel, so I decided to make this advert to tell you basically about the 3 ways that you can get involved with this channel. First and foremost, give me high fives. I thrive on adoration and self-validation, so thank you very much for doing that already, but I need more of those. Secondly, you can chat to me via email or just drop me a comment, send me a DM or something, and I will tell you how you can become involved as a monetary sponsor. There's a couple of ways for that, but I mean, don't worry, I'm not asking for $1 million. I'm literally asking for a couple of bucks. I mean, $1 million would be nice, in case you're wondering. And thirdly, I am working on producing quite a few more episodes of Go Here with Baas de Beer. If you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out, the one that I did for Misty Waters. So if you're a potential client of mine, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you can book me to come and do such an episode of your festival, of your guest house, of your town. There's a couple of things coming up, such as features on low-cost travel, specific towns that I'm going to be doing, the top 10 places to go in, insert place here. You'll have to stay tuned to see where I'm going with that. But yeah, basically, so either high five me, give me money, or, become my client. Not dat 'n ad-break gespeel.
Vir dit kon doen wat adverteer.
Nee, vandaag se ad is actually ek met myself adverteer.
Okay.
Yeah, because I only recently started opening up the whole podcast for endorsements and stuff. So as die al wil adverteer op my podcast, goeie rates.
Cool.
I will make the pun. Daar het jy dit. That's how I'm totally finishing this thing. Okay, so we've had quite a few deep and meaningful discussions now. I reckon it's time for me to get slightly frivolous. Don't worry, it's got nothing to do with the guitar standing there.
Please, that's the one thing I won't do, is I won't sing or run. I also won't run, because people laugh when I run.
So I've got a surprise for you here. We are going to be doing a marathon whilst singing now.
No,
look, I've got a couple of weird ideas, because I don't think I know enough about politics to really have good ideas. But I definitely know enough to have some weird ideas.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that, obviously it's private and there's confidentiality when doing some political things and such. Now, I've had this theory that if I ever were to start my own political party, right? Imagine for a second, every member of my party gets access to an app. On the app, you can do a couple of things. Firstly, there's a basic voting system, yay, nay, yes, no, in, out, whatever the thing is. And at any time, the second functionality, you can tune into a live broadcast completely, every single meeting of the party. If there's a meeting about who gets which parking spot, it's being broadcast live on a chat room. You can go and tune in. If there's a meeting behind closed doors, there's no such a thing as a closed door policy. If there is such a thing as a life-changing discussion that has to happen, live broadcast. Everyone has access to it. And then thirdly, again, a space for people to have their actual physical input. AI can monitor the thing and then give you some sort of a summary of what is felt. But I mean, wouldn't that actually enable trust, a process that is clear for everyone to follow and have their actual say? And it comes down to the point that, okay, do we want to paint the Union buildings, the world's latest and greatest World Heritage Site? Are we painting it pink? And
blue.
Blue. The blue balls, pink balls, whatever, we've got it. You probably pink. whatever the case is, if there's an important matter, we're painting the colors. You can literally, from the ground level up, such as the wall color of the union buildings, all the way to political policy, have immediate input of everyone that's, has got the app at least.
So the DA pretty much has that, in the sense of we have got policy conferences where people make decisions. Now, as a representative of the DA, I can't make any decision that is against what is decided at a policy conference. I can't, as a member of caucus, make any decision that is not agreed to by caucus. So, but we do it in a way by approving policies and principles and making our decisions based on that. That is also why our caucus meetings are much more structured than other parties' caucus meetings, is because we do have a basic agreement of what it is that we want to do. There is very little in the DA itself that happens behind closed doors, that happens because we are a federal democratic party, so everything does happen by elections, by choices. We do not have the ability to have an app where everybody can make the decision. So you elect a representative that, represents your view when many decisions are made. When I said earlier that there's certain things that are confidential, and that you can't discuss, it's very often caucus confidentiality, and it's strategy related. And you
see, that is what I want public.
Okay. No, you can't.
Why not?
I can't tell you how I am going to be in a council meeting, overcome a curveball that the ANC is going to throw me. If that's out in the public,
You have the entire public on your side.
The ANC will know where we're coming from. No, it will
fail.
But
if everyone knows where everyone's coming from, I think it should be a thing. There shouldn't be such a thing.
Yeah, well, in an ideal world, that's the word. In an ideal world, we would only have good people.
That's true.
Okay. Unfortunately, we do know that in politics across the world, not only in South Africa, but in politics across the world, you have got a lot of people that serve their own self-interests. And sometimes if you have got people who serve their own self-interest, you need to outsmart them. And I can't outsmart you if you know what my next move is going to be.
You don't need to outsmart anyone if you're literally just the most open party, giving the best service and the best to everyone, regardless of anything. But I believe that is something that I think would be easier if we go back to the way the ancient Greeks did their first bits of democracy, where it wasn't a status thing to be elected, it was a burden to be placed upon someone by essentially luck of the random draw. I think it was the initial Greeks. Somewhere there was that. Point being, it was not a look at me, I'm in charge. It was a holy shit, I'm in charge. And it was a bit of an honor, I think, to just carry out the will of the people. But you're essentially supposed to just do admin if you're a politician. You're not supposed to tell me how to think, drink, or do.
No. Well, that is the difficulty, is that as a Liberal Party, the DA believes that you've got the right to do what you want to do when you want to do it, as long as you do not affect, impact the life of other people. Now, that's where it becomes sometimes difficult because, what is that fine line? And then it's a difficult thing to do, but your job as a politician is to make law. That is ultimately your job, is to make law, to make policies, and to then see that those who need to give effect to those policies actually do that and do it proper. The unfortunate part is that, for instance, the city of Tshwane, I've got in our portfolio a budget of about 50 billion rand. Once there's money at play, there's people that wants to get their hands on it. And yes, then there is sometimes closed door discussions that as a caucus of the DA and as a caucus of the coalition, we need to, number one, ensure that we're on the same page. Because one individual can't take a strategy decision alone. So you need to, number one, be sure that you're on the same page. And then number two, ensure that your caucus confidentiality is in place so that your strategy does not come out. Now, I need to also clarify what I mean about strategy. So, for example, we need to pass a budget in the city of Tshwane last year. the ANC could literally derail us from passing a budget by locking somebody in a bathroom. So our strategies includes things like
Locking people in the bathroom.
how do you not get caught in a bathroom? Okay, how do you not get caught in a lift? Our strategies include things like if the ANC and the EFF, the opposition, wants to violently disrupt a meeting, how do we get our people out safe? Okay, strategy includes that we've got 2 reports serving on a council agenda. The first report, the opposition might, want to have there. The second report, they might not want to support. So, which report do we do first? Those are the type of, so it's tactical strategies that I'm talking about.
The chess game.
It's a chess game, but those are very, very tactical things. When it comes to policy decisions, like I said, the DA is a open book to all of our members. But tactical strategies, those need to remain tactical. You don't go to war and tell everybody what you're going to do.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that everyone's not just working towards the greater good together.
For sure, for sure. One day in utopia and world peace.
So you are the MEC of Finance, right? Now, how would you feel about the concepts? And I mean, I've spoken to a couple of friends about this idea, and some of them call me crazy, but to either limit voting possibilities based on tax numbers or at least tax status, or if you are a non-taxpayer, your vote counts 1. If you're a taxpayer, it counts 2. Something like that. Again, politics noob. I just figure that if you don't pay, why do you get to help make rules?
So I was a stay-at-home mother for quite a while in my life. Okay. And the work that I did was all volunteer-based work. I worked quite hard, but volunteer-based work that I did not earn an income. Did that give me less of a vote than my husband who worked?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
No, yes, I mean, it's your proposal. You're saying it should be.
I've got a much more convoluted full spectrum solution to that.
Okay, what's your full spectrum solution to that?
But I've been told that apparently there's some bad people that have had similar ideas. But here's the thing for me, okay? I say that you should be earning your vote in different ways. Mm-hmm. So, fine. If you're a citizen, you've got your ID number, your vote counts 1. If you are a taxpayer, it counts 1 more. But if you are a contributor in large financial capacities, you get an extra vote.
There you have just explained that we are going to give the biggest votes to the guys with the most money, who's the most corrupt.
But that's why that's why it still goes
that's
on.
That's what you said.
But someone that does community work, for instance, deals with the street kids and so they don't have the millions of bucks to contribute, but they've got the hours to do the expertise in that or such. They get the same extra vote that the rich person donating or running or whatever. I mean, finances is one thing, but community work is another. You can earn your vote status by doing good for the community, essentially. So either doing charitable works or being part of a schooling system or so, that is as valued. Or, obviously, if you say that you're a stay-at-home mom, don't even get me started on that. I believe we should have a much longer maternity leave supports and. Not that everyone needs it, apparently. But point is, there's way to earn your vote.
I was a stay-at-home wife. It was before I became a mother, but in any case.
True that. But point being, at this point, I just feel like, no offense to me, but I don't know shit about politics. Why should my vote count the same as someone that's got multiple degrees in it and is a much higher contributing person in society? I don't think I should have the same vote as you do, because you know a lot more than I do on policy and stuff.
Yeah, so ultimately, and I think it's possibly because people have a flawed understanding of democracy. So ultimately, a political party or an individual, whichever it might be, gives you a manifesto to say, when I get into government, this is what I will do for the country, the city, the province, whatever it might be. And your vote is to give that person a mandate to do exactly that. So every person's vote should then count the same, because we all have again, liberal society, democratic society. You've got a right to want to do what you want to do and to want to see the world that in the way that you want to see the world. the argument has been made very often to link people's votes to their contribution. But then I want to challenge you. So as I said, was my very early 20s. I was married, got divorced, and ultimately had quite a huge mountain of debt. Just started a business. Business didn't work out. I was pretty much flat out. So I wouldn't have the right to vote. You have somebody who's going through a mental health crisis. Brilliant person who have contributed their entire life to a fantastic, fantastic society, but is currently going through a mental health crisis. They're not allowed to vote.
One could make the argument that they might be too unstable to vote, but I mean, that's getting nitty-gritty about it.
So
I don't know.
Look, I'm not saying that a democracy is the best solution. I'm saying that humanity is still to come up with a better solution. But ultimately, we should be governed by people that carries our mandate. And you can only carry somebody's mandate when they have given it to you. And you give a mandate by voting.
That is an interesting way to let me see the point. Because, I mean, in the end, it is, I suppose, let politicians politic and let normal people normal.
No.
Because I can't imagine, look, there's too many freaking armchair experts in anything. And I mean, you see it in sport, you see it in politics. Everyone has got an opinion. And if I have to go and try and even keep 3 different people in my friendship group happy, I don't know how you guys do it, basically. So what would you say is the secret then to pleasing as many people as possible while still staying firm in principles that you are rooted in?
The answer should not be keeping people happy, because happy is an emotion, it's frivolous. It's the same as sad, which is an emotion which is frivolous. People joke and say that I'm not emotional. I'm very emotional, but I take very, very calculated, when it comes to decisions, very calculated decisions. It doesn't mean that the things that I see on a daily basis doesn't affect me, and that doesn't very hard pull on my heartstrings. But in any case, that left there. Ultimately, when we take decisions, we should take our decisions based on principles, and often it isn't what people want to see. I mean, we had to take a decision last year as a coalition government to not give salary increases. It led to a 3-month most violent strike that the city of Tshwane has ever seen. I mean, those weren't decisions that we made to keep people happy. It was decisions that were rooted in principle. And as I said earlier, I do believe that if you build up a track record, that you make decisions based on principle and on values, that people will ultimately see that. But the biggest difficulty, or the worst thing you can do as a politician, is to make a decision to keep people happy. That can't ever be your decision.
Well, I mean, it is supposed to be a bit of a balance, I think, because I mean, you want to see the people happy, but you kind of need to place yourself, I suppose, in a role as the mommy or daddy of the people that don't know the real game. Or is that not how you view it?
No, you can never see. I don't think that we should ever see ourselves higher than other people. I actually believe that what makes the group of leadership that we have in the city of Tshwane good is the fact that we are boots on the ground people. I mean, I've got high heels on today, but very often I have got metal tip boots on, walking on the ground. And it is that understanding of what it is that people really, really experience that makes us understand what the decisions are that we should take. So no, I don't believe separating yourself from the guy on the street is what makes you a good politician. I believe it's the opposite. It's understanding what it is, seeing the ground, seeing how people live, what they experience, listening to their stories and their real lives, and that is what leads us to make the best decisions.
Also not have water with the rest of us and all those things.
And dirty hair when you come on camera. Yes, exactly that.
I've got 2 questions for you, then we need to draw this delightful chat to a close. But the one thing is, actually 3, so stop counting. I just have a question. Political rallies. Where do all the people come from that go? And because firstly, how do people know there's a thing? And also, why do they go? Because, I mean, not to be weird about it, but I've got shit to do during the day. I don't want to go and stand and listen to some guy waffle on about politics. I want to see a bulletin on an email and, make decisions based on that. That's fine for me. But then you see the rallies like of the EFF or whatever, and there's like a million people there. Don't they have something better to do?
Well, I think the EFF has seen that filling stadiums doesn't relate into votes. So, I mean, that's the first thing that we've learned via the EFF. Just because you can get somebody into a stadium, doesn't mean they'll vote for you. Political rallies it's an important, number one, show of force. And number two, it is very important to have your party membership be on the same page as to what it is that you offer your people, and what it is that you offer in your manifesto. Because ultimately, it is your party members that's going to go out to speak to people, to speak to other people, to speak to other people, to get them to vote for you. So in political rallies, it is your party members that comes into one place, listen to your leaders, understand what your messaging is, and to be able to then go out there and garner votes.
Silly question, but I don't think I've ever wondered about the difference. But when you say party member, does me voting for a party make me a party member, or do I have to pay a membership fee and that it makes me a party member?
So when you vote for a party, you give the mandate for the party to implement your manifesto. When you are a member of a party, mean that you have actually filled in a membership form and paid a membership fee, you become part of the decision making of what is in that manifesto. And who the person in the seat is that will
that sounds
represent
like too much
you.
admin for me.
Well, very many people feel that way.
Like, I honestly, my take on politics is I take a look at the one that's honestly seems to care most for most. Like, and the lesser of all evils. And at this point, I'll be honest, it seems to be you guys. So I'm honestly convinced that all politicians are full of shit in some way or another. Sorry. But again, I would rather vote for the person that helped me look for my dog. It shows character than someone just barking things themselves over a microphone or so.
So you do not become a politician because you're an agreeable person. You ultimately become a politician because you want to change society. Okay, so people want to change society, aren't agreeable, go with the flow type of people. So in essence, politicians are difficult people. But you also do not want an agreeable person to represent and fight for your needs. You want a bit of a firecracker and somebody that can stand up and say no. So no, in essence, politicians aren't agreeable people.
No.
We are a bunch of difficult people, a bunch of people that have heated debates, and specifically in the DA, we welcome debate. We welcome various different opinions, various different voices.
Now, you mentioned that, you obviously want to do the best for society that you can. If there's one thing, and with this I sort of want to draw to an actual close now, if there's one thing that you would say is your biggest dream that you want to see changed in South Africa as a whole, what would that be?
Oh, well, okay, so last week I went on a drive through Mamelodi because, as I said, I like to be a politician that's on the ground, that understands what's happening. And there's a very specific part in Mamelodi that's called Alaska. Alaska is probably one of the most dangerous places in the city. And there is Alaska sits on the other side of a river. And there is only one bridge across the river to get to Alaska. But the school is on the other side of the river. So for the kids that lives close to the bridge, it's easy. They get over the bridge and they go to school. For the kids that lives on the other side, they have to go through the river to the school. In 2024, we sit in a place where we still have kids that needs to walk through a river to the school. Fast forward to Friday last week, I went to go and visit Macy's School, which is the epitome of grace and of opportunities. And I think my greatest dream for South Africa is that we do not have that great divide anymore. that we do not have that where we have certain kids who need to use a toilet that is in the street because they do not have one in their house, and they need to, in the middle of the night, walk to a toilet down the road and through a river to get to school. But we have places where there is that's similar opportunities, and not bringing one down. I'm not for one moment saying that kids who are in office should feel bad. I mean, you should feel that you have got an amazing start to life. That's what you should feel.
Be aware of your privilege.
I'm not even be aware of your privilege. Be aware of your privilege. Sometimes that you make stupid decisions because you make ag sies tog arm ek decisions. But so I'm not saying that we shouldn't have places like office. I'm saying they're amazing. But I would like to have a society where we do not have the 100% exact opposite.
I like that. Last but not least, if any young women are watching this saying, listen, I want to get into politics, and I know that you don't see yourself as an advocate for it necessarily, but I do know that there are a lot of women that do look up to you. When I told a couple of my friends that I'm talking to you, other than the obvious things that they say, oh, well, tell her to sort out this freaking electricity right now.
Electricity is on, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Two of my friends actually mentioned to me that obviously they've seen how you function. They do keep a bit of an eye on you, and they definitely look up to you. So if there's something that you could give as advice for young women that might want to step into politics, and you're not allowed to mention hard skin.
Politics is not as glamorous as what people think it is. Politics in South Africa starts with standing on street corners. You
don't need to whisper, it's on a podcast.
It's on the podcast in any case, cut it out. No joke. But it is about standing on street corners, handing out pamphlets. It is about jumping in and helping cleaning up areas. There's a lot of real hard work that is involved in politics. And the only way that you can get involved is by doing that hard work, understanding benefiting the society in that way, and then starting to understand the processes, getting involved in the structures, become a party member. It's one of the most complicated environments is politics, and it does take you absolute years. It took me about 8 years to just understand the separation of party and state. Let's just start with that one. I mean, it took forever to understand what is states' decisions, what is party decisions. Get involved and just stick your heels in and stay involved. And don't run scared if somebody say that your next job is to put a poll on a poster on a pole. Climb on the ladder and put the poster on the pole.
Yep, there you have it. Your work will take you to polls if you are planning on going into politics. Which is also a pun because polls.
Very, very.
Oh, listen, Jacqui, thank you so very much for lending me a bit of your insane schedule. I'm pretty sure that there's a million WhatsApps waiting for you the moment that you are done with this.
I hope people have water, yes.
So thank you so much. Any parting words?
None. Thank you very much for letting me be here and relaxing for a little bit this afternoon.
I can continue for longer. I mean, we can book you in for a tattoo at Apparent Art Studios. Thank you for letting me host it here. Would you want a tattoo?
Not today. I do want one, but not today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the Baascast. It's been a treat to have Jacqui on. And if you've got any guests that you think that I should be chatting to, which is a bit out of my wheelhouse, do let me know. Drop a comment, no, don't call me. Just comment on things. All right. Cheers. Have fun. Thank you for listening to this Baascast, and thank you so much Audio Torch for sponsoring the camera gear.
Hulle doen my Barbie in council, toe gaan koop ek van die pinkste rok wat ek kon kry.
Dit is hilarious.
Die volgende keer toe sê hulle ek moet minder toe ek net MMC van finansies voor, toe sê hulle vir my ek moet minder glamorous wees. Toe gaan koop ek vir my 'n blou satijnrok wat oopgesny is tot hier vir my volgende raadsvergadering.
Dit is asof jy aspris is.
Nee, ek, hallo Kitty.